Welcome back to the Drawing Database. Professor Marc Leone here, and we're going to look at today and spend 15 or so minutes with the graphic work of the drawings of Francisco de Goya y Lucientes, born in 1746 in Fuendetodos, and he died in 1828 in Bordeaux, I believe, in France there. So very successful artist in his time. Certainly Spain's top artist during that time, around the middle part of the Age of Enlightenment and on to the Revolutionary period, constitutional period of both France and the United States. And a tortured artist, to be sure, a brilliant artist, illuminating the darker side of war, of human folly, the, if you will, the Inquisition of the Catholic Church, and a purveyor really of truth and of the all aspects of human nature. One aside, if you're ever in Madrid and you are looking to see the Goya plates, which I have seen, let me pull this over if I can a little bit so you can see this through my email. I've been there, and I just had to remind myself, and the name of the location is the Real Academia de Bellas Artes Fernando, and you can go there. It's about a 10-minute walk. I gave myself to a colleague there from the Prado, and it is an amazing place to study the not only you can see the etching works, which I'll call drawing works here, of Goya. And we'll look at today the Los Desastres de la Guerra and Los Caprichos, but it is a great place to view the actual etched plates that he worked on. So they have them in a darker part of the museum there in a corner, and you go up the stairs and you walk by a really cool printing press of the time, and you can see those plates. It is a must if you're a Goya enthusiast or you're an enthusiast of drawing and or printmaking. You can go to the Prado or go there the next day, and I got to see them, and it was quite a treat and fascinating to see the plates that he makes, many of the drawings or etchings actually that we're going to see today. So here we have a self-portrait of Goya in his quintessential rendering technique of short staccato line work here. The artist in the kind of boiler hat, he was very successful for his time. He certainly amassed quite a bit of wealth. He had powerful connections to the monarchy, to the king and to the queen and the royal family. As we've seen in his painting work, he certainly painted quite a bit of portraits in his earlier days, and painted in a very different range of style than this. We'll look at today mostly his graphic works, but he was certainly, in my opinion, kind of a Rococoist to begin his career, or have that aspect of his career, and then certainly settled on something darker and more revelatory of the human spirit. But here we have quintessential Goya in striking etched line. Here we have a graphic work by Goya with some ink and wash of a prisoner, or certainly a man being tortured or held up. Just kind of fair warning, some of these images are going to be tougher on your psyche, because he illuminated and illustrated war and violence that he was privy to during the war with France and Spain during his life that he saw, and also the French occupation of some of Spain with his large war portrait, I believe the 3rd of May. But here we see the deeper expression. He would allow, I think, a kind of a lack of technical prowess to emerge, so that the emotional quality of the figure could come out, even though it was no less greatly rendered. And you'll see that a little bit later, as he drew quite a bit from his imagination. Here we see a etching and some aqua tint of this kind of tonal control here. Kind of my gray on here. I'll just leave that. You can see that. You can see the beautiful stroked line that was etched into the copper plate, and then obviously etched in with acids for the time, and then printed. Here we see the folly of women, kind of a brood of witches. He made several paintings on this particular idea. as well. And we see the young men and our children here flipping it over and lacking control of their own lives. This favors well into the Los Caprichos series. Here we have a rendering of the Tauromaquia, or the bullfight, or the bull arena that we saw, that we've seen with Picasso, that was done earlier, and categorized and illustrated by Goya, a famous toreador or matador of the day, here fighting the bull in this very particularly captivating pose. Perhaps even it could be the picador, but probably a matador of some sort. Anyway, the point being that you've got this beautiful, crazy vertical ride of this almost Harlequin-esque or acrobat up into the air, with this vertical coming down to this powerful and very angry and probably very tired bull. We have overhead lighting, sunny day into the arena. We have our patrons here. And we have what we see as classic Goya etching style of a very linear technique, and then drawn from his imagination to render great, romantic, passionate heights of action or effect of that time. Here we see an image of the death and the martyrdom of a young woman, probably in the Los Caprichos series of etchings. I'm not quite sure. Doesn't matter. We're talking about technique, so we can talk about this beautiful hatched line that's layered in etching over time, that's carved in, completely carved in. So we get this composition of this beautiful curve, don't we? And then we get in the dark the captivating religious figure, patriarchal figure here, and then really everything is radiated out of the center figure, and she is illuminated. She is the light, right? And everybody is illuminated around her, and the death of her, it could be the death of liberty and or reason in time of great strife or pestilence, and also war too, signifying well. Here we see Goya in the height of maturity, working from his imagination. Here we see a priest doing a high wire act, obviously metaphorical and or allegorical, doing a tightrope walk and trying to straddle the powerful Catholic Church of the Inquisition age and beyond, and then of the masses too as well. Down below we see the priest or the father, the padre, spread out, almost flying, about to take off. It almost looks, will he fall, will he make it, and will the crowd below tear him apart? Those are things that we don't know. Here we have the beautiful drawn image of the Graceful Balancing Act, and all of this again is from a Goya's very lively, very active, and dynamic imagination. Here we have a beautiful drawing or etching combining two techniques, the aquatint of this very light toned background against the paper there, a powdery kind of technique that you could talk about more in your printmaking classes, but a beautiful drawing from the imagination of an allegorical figure almost flying, being captured, this sort of flying gargoyle figure overtaking these women and people, and as their belongings are, they're all taken, and they're taken out of their environment, and there's this kind of surprise and upheaval of their own lives, and this kind of terrible lack of control of one's own existence. A lot of suffering that Goya saw. He suffered in his own life from what we believe to be lead poisoning, to create some deafness, some personal handicap, as well as some mental degradation towards more of the end of his life, and he gets to a darker place within humanity, and then we start to see that with these drawn imaginative images. Another caprichos of the falling, which could be into hell, or the decline or descent of mankind somewhere into the bowels of hell. And we see almost like water pushing the figure down, pushing the figures down. He uses the graphic quality of the aqua tint here in the background. I don't know why that doesn't let me change color. Sorry about that. But we see the aqua tint here, and then the beautiful sketchy linear quality line combined as well. The line would come first and etched, and the aqua tint more than likely would come after that. And again, we see the strange and powerful mind at work of Goya and his beautiful scratchy etching technique to render his imagination fully. So another image from the Los Caprichos, the folly of mankind, the dentistry, the pulling of teeth, the silliness of it all, the lack of control, the submission to an authoritarian power, and what looks like is the extraction of teeth by a spoon, which couldn't be anything but violent and or painful. But we see the combination of drawn quality and the aqua tinting, the graphic quality here. And again, we see Goya and his heightened imagination, drawing from imagination in what is could be thought of as Frankensteinian, very tortured figures that frankly were ahead of their time. One of Goya's most famous prints, The Sleep of Reason, produces monsters. Here we see the tortured man, dreaming, sleeping, producing the manifestation of his darkened mind. We see the clothing of the day, very much what we recognize in America as the revolutionary constitutional period, which was certainly then in the middle 18th century. We see a young man at his study, perhaps sleep by exhaustion, and then we get the darkened rendering of the bats, the gargoyles attacking, the owls even attacking the cat. All of these images of wisdom and of power coming to his torture. Another self-drawn image. So if you like Goya, or if you're interested in Goya, look at his entire career. Look how versatile he was in painting and drawing in his graphic works. And you'll be richly rewarded with a first-class draftsman who could draw extremely expressively out of his imagination rather than from pulling things from different aspects of life, pulling it together. And here we see the ass or the donkey coming to being the doctor of the human being. There's the folly of this. Could not be more poignant. The beast, the animal, being the reasoned mind. And we can't help but read allegory in the interpretation of death and lack of reason as it produces the condition of, I would suppose, being going backwards or retrograde in human experience. But here we have the veil here, female behind, and perhaps the figure here succumbing to a pandemic. And of course we have the doctor perhaps giving the last rites or time of death. And you see a lot in the Caprichos. You see it. I didn't show the disasters of war as much because it's so violent. I highly recommend, if you can stomach, seeing the disasters of war too. But again, another classic drawing of figures paraded around in public with dunce caps here, right? We see that, the figure here. And with the drawn on an ass, a martyred symbol or a donkey, paraded around town, head held up, so the head had to be up so we could see the likeness of the person. Of course, we have which could be the French behind, parading a Spanish prisoner or possibly a traitor. We don't know. But again, the drawing, the composing from imagination, the loose quality was unheard of at the time, and these were received well enough, but difficult certainly to stomach, and certainly not immediately popular because of that. A very tough image to see. We have one of it says Caprichos in my notes, but it could just as well be disasters of war. We see the young woman doing what she needs to extract gold from a deceased man from a hanging or a guillotine to find a way to make money, assuming so. We have the corpse there, and then the hidden cloth to hide her face from the horror of this existence here. This dichotomy is very, very strong. And then, of course, the pulling, trying to pull the tooth out to get some money. The holding still of the body by the hands that she clasped on. It's just horrific. The research shows that Goya didn't witness any of this, but he drew from his imagination, from accounts, from stories, and from his knowledge of understanding war in battle and human experience. And it is assumed that he was not in live witness to battles. He probably would have been killed had he would have. So again, we see a lot of hatching and also cross hatching to render some of the darks down here, also with aqua tint to great effect. Compare his etching drawing work with that of Rembrandt, and you see two very different but no less important styles of that graphic medium. And then lastly, I'll leave you with a Disasters of War image of a deceased warriors, probably Spanish revolutionary warriors here, or defenders of their homeland. And then we have the lone brave woman, the allegory of her silhouette, right, against what is the powerful image of the cannon, being ready to light, to ignite, to fight off the invader. The beautiful minimal quality of the composition, the great control of drawing, the craft of drawing, and the composing of really getting us to look into the abyss. We don't know what's out there, but we see her as the hero, igniting the cannon and defending and fighting for her country's honor. So if you get interested in Goya, definitely see the plates at the Real Academy in Madrid. They're not too far from the Prado. And you'll see the difference between the early paintings, the large 3rd of May painting, the nude and clothed Maha, the Pinturas Negras, which we see the psychosis of Goya come out quite a bit, and of course the wonderful, beautiful etchings, which I think of really as drawings of the Los Caprichos and the disasters, Los Desastres de la Guerra. You'll see too as well. They are powerful, they are hard to see, but you need to be aware of them in art history because they signify a great accomplishment in the era of the neoclassical Enlightenment era, when everybody else was painting the aristocracy in France, the Rococo, Gainsborough, as well as Hogarth in England, painting more kind of moral lessons of the larger, broader parts of society. We see Goya taking on a brutal aspect of our human experience, war, death, and political folly that, if doesn't go unchecked, can be quite dangerous. Enjoy. You guys take care. Bye-bye.